Welcome. Let's talk about some of the developments in this down to earth edition. Now, some of the topics are really important because one topic talks about the bird flu and the second talks about the heat stress in India and its implications. So, focusing on first of all the organic farming and boosting rural income, one of the major ideas that was given by some of the local villagers in Maharashtra focused on use of cow urine, and this was a highly successful way of bringing in the organic crops in the region. The next is the increasing temperature. So recently, Menagudi region of Jalpaiguri in West Bengal hit with a severe tornado, and this was because of a combination of rising ocean temperatures, rising land temperatures, and the unusual wind patterns, which ultimately led to this severe tornado that was affecting the region. So IMD has actually forecasted the heat waves for 2024, specifically in the western Rajasthan, for the coming period, and this has also been brought into notice that from April to June this year it would be the above normal temperatures which would be recorded. So under IMD, what is the heat wave definition? If it is 40-degree in plains, 37 in coastal and 30 in hilly, it would be declared as a heat wave area. So we need to understand that these high elevated humid levels have to be checked, and the predictions are not only for the hot and the humid forecast but also for the remaining period. The next is the bird flu. United States recently witnessed a significant strain of H5N1, and the strain affecting the population of the bovines and the cattle in the region, and it was directed that if untreated and unpasteurized milk from dairy cows is obtained, this could be affecting or one of the leading causes of influenza in human beings. So individuals were warned against consuming raw or uncooked food items which could be from the potentially infected animals. The next is the regions in South Africa have been grappling with drought. Zimbabwe has declared an ongoing drought as a national disaster on 3rd of April, and this has said that there is an urgent need for $2 billion to help nearly 2.7 million population which is at the risk of hunger. The similar declarations have been previously given by Zambia, Malawi, even the regions of Botswana, Angola, Mozambique, Madagascar have been experiencing severe drought conditions. Now coming on to Indonesia. Indonesia has three species of tiger which have been seen: the Java, Sumatra, and the Bali. So Java, it was believed that had got extinct in 1980s. However, they are trying to bring in efforts to see if there is a possible existence of the Javan tigers that could be seen. The Balinese tiger again got extinct in 1940s. The only species of tiger that could be seen in the regions of Indonesia is the Sumatran tiger, and that is again under the IUCN vulnerable classification with a population of less than not vulnerable, sorry, critically endangered, and it has a population of less than 400 individuals which is left. The next is the Pilkhani tree. Now Pilkhani tree is also known as a tree of white fig. It has numerous medicinal properties. It is indigenous to the areas of Delhi, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and is known by local names across the country. For example, Pakhad in Hindi, Pepri in Gujarati, Kurugati in Tamil are some of the names. Now it is used as culinary dish in Southeast Asia. It has additives and phenols and flavonoids. It is useful for various diseases, protecting from virus like coex B4, hepatitis A, beneficial for managing diabetes. It also has proanthocyanins which can impede the proliferation of breast cancer cells, and in Ayurveda it is used to treat skin ailments and keep skin healthy. Now again, the flowers of this are really important. They are used for digestive purpose, for health, for heart ailments, and interestingly they can grow even in the stagnant water, even the area where you have higher moisture content, and they are known as strangler fig. Why? Because they sprout on other tree and they strangle and kill the host tree in long run. So this is one of the species that have been explained here. The next is ILO's classification. International Labour Organization has talked about that the India's young population, which is somewhere at around 27% as of now, is expected to decline to 23% by 2036. Also, the proportion of unemployed undergraduates is somewhere around 27%, which is only 3% in illiterates. Also, the graduates are waiting for a longer period to get a higher pay and are not ready to work on a low pay job. There are productive employment opportunities that need to be generated for 7 to 8 million young population which enter the labor market annually, and the youth population of India accounts for 83% of the total unemployed population. If we talk about the educational level, 2/5 of the country has a education level below secondary education, and 4% only have access to vocational education. So definitely there has to be a big jump that has to be attained, and the report even says that with this rate, if the things are not controlled, it could turn out into a social unrest. The developing and the impoverished countries like India represent 90% of the global youth population, and if the ways are obtained efficiently, this could actually prove beneficial for the country and the overall growth per se. The next is the soil and the soil health. So 59% of the soil of the earth species inhabit the soil, but yet only 1% of the biodiversity in the region has been identified. Now for the soil, what are the things which are required? Flood regulation, it should be inhabited for the organism, the human infrastructures would be built onto it. Soil is again a means for carbon sequestration, which we have understood in one of our lectures previously, as a source of fuel, fodder and food. The purification of the soil has to be checked in. Also nutrient cycling has to be checked in. Now what are the ingredients that make the soil? Firstly, we talk about the minerals. 45 to 49% by its volume is mineral. Water ranges from 2 to 50%. Then you have organic matter, which is important for growth of the species. There are various gases which are present. Oxygen is crucial. Carbon dioxide and nitrogen is again present. Nitrogen helps nitrogen fixing bacteria. Sometimes when the water becomes waterlogged, there is root gas exchange that has to take place. Organisms are also found. And then how do we measure the health of the soil? There are various standards. For example, soil compaction and structural stability. Soil compaction talks about maximum dry density of the soil sample measured through SMAF and CASH. Similarly, structural ability, again the ability to withstand the water pressure in the soil, again measured by these two methods. Then there are chemical properties, for example pH, electrical conductivity, the carbon levels, the active carbon levels, and these are measured by different methods which have been mentioned here. Again we have biological properties which are mentioned. This is mainly the microbial respiration rate. The research laboratories are talking about the functional genes to measure it. There are enzyme activities which are checked. The testing time has to be taken into account. Then the various countries, for example in UK, Netherlands, Finland, what are the evaluation ways which have been taken into account and how it has been progressed. The next is the US Drug Regulation Act. It talks about the use of oral contraceptive pills and the abortion pills which are there, and it is said that nearly 6 lakh medical abortions were performed in the United States alone, which account for 63% of the ones which were in the formal healthcare system. That means nearly 30% goes under the informal system of the healthcare. Also, there are combination of two drug regimes which have been given, mainly the misoprostol, but these have significant health hazards which are not released, and there is a segment of doctors which are against these abortion pills. So there is an anti-abortion bill move that is there. So regulatory policies have to be checked and the lawsuits have to be identified for the same. The next is coral bleaching. Now widespread coral bleaching events have seen in 2014, and it is witnessed that in 2024 these likelihood would further increase. The UNESCO World Heritage Site has been linked to the regions of Australia, the Great Barrier Reef, but again there are precedences that heat levels and elevated heat levels could affect or lead to mass coral bleaching. Now there have been El Nino effects and La Nino effects, which have been detrimental for the coral reefs over the period, and it has been believed that 2024 would be a year which would have a strong El Nino globally, and this would again be a cause of the coral bleaching. Now, these affect the tropical and the subtropical areas, and as you can see, the amount of warming in the areas and the impact in the nearby areas could be one of the reasons. The next is heat stress. Now, heat stress is leading to one of the diseases which is known as chronic kidney disease of unknown etiology. That means the cause of this disease is unknown, but the prevalence has been initially seen in Sri Lanka, then in India, and specifically in the parts of Odisha where people are engaged in salt mining and the areas where mining is done. There are common occurrences of kidney function diseases, diabetes, hypertension, glomerulonephritis, and genetic disorders affecting the kidney health. And there has been a consortium set up to identify what are the major reasons. So heat stress is considered as one of the primary catalysts to impact the health of the kidney, and therefore the idea is to promote shady areas in the working conditions. So if no shade areas are available for resting, it would lead to higher temperature affecting the kidney health, and people involved with crushing and loading of salt crystals are one of the most affected segments in the population. So these are the areas which have been documented with chronic kidney disease, and the major proportion lies in the regions of Mexico and India, and both of them have been affected by significant heat waves in the recent areas. So climate change is again one of the reasons which has attributed for the same. The next is the seeds from the previous times. Now there are various local people and their developments which have been witnessed. For example, the seeds have been identified from pearl millet, sorghum, foxtail millet, and dangriani. So these are called by native names in the native language, but the idea is the establishment of seed bank and preservation techniques which could be obtained in the region. Then the paddy seed, its cultivation and revival of these seeds have been important, specifically in the areas of Koratpur, Raigad, Jaipur, in the areas of Eastern Ghat are some of the areas. And then we focus on various crops that can be grown before the 1960s. For example, before 1960s in Muniguda blocks there were nearly 70 to 75 varieties of millets that were grown. There were drought monitoring cells which were talking about the species that could grow into the drought prone areas. The next is fecal sludge and its management. Nearly 21 cities of Uttar Pradesh have come together to have a common portal for fecal sludge and its maintenance. So handling the excreta waste can be through two methods: properly linking the toilets to the sewage treatment plants, or considering a kind of fecal sludge treatment plant in the nearby area. So these two methods have to be adopted, but there are various challenges. This talk about the cost, the default value which has to be determined, and the user input. And then there are guidelines which have to be derived and addressed accordingly. The popularity for the fecal sludge transportation and management has grown significantly, and as I said, many cities are coming together in the urban areas, and these are some of the statistics that could be brought from the region. So there are various calculations which have been done to have an adaptable natural way for fecal sludge and its management, but what and how it could be practiced is again important. The last important topic for today's session is on plastic pollution. Now plastic pollution and inhalation of toxic substances being released from the plastic lead to skin and respiratory infections that degrades the quality of the air, and there are various substances which are being affected, which are categorized into uncategorizable or unclassified category, and they affect the human health, right? So vinyl chloride monomer can be in liquid or vapor form, affect or lead to liver, brain and cancerous effect. Benzene and butadiene can develop leukemia. Styrene can lead to carcinogenic effects, and benzene can be neurotoxic. So these are some of the impacts. Now if we look onto the raw material which is released, if we talk about naphtha, we have ethane and propane which is released from ethylene. We have synthetic fibers, cloths, carpets, water pipelines through chlorination of it. Through oxidation we have the synthetic fibers, and through polymerization milk pouches and packing material is built. From polypropylene kitchenware and packing materials are used. And then there are various exposures that have been seen. If we talk about the recycling, it has to become important. There are various reports which talks about recycling of the plastic contains harmful chemicals which are far beyond the acceptable limits. For example, the testing for 5 of them have been done: BPA, nonyl phenol, chlorinated paraffins, phthalates and heavy metals, and 6 of them have found up with a higher level of then recognized samples. And then they also have carcinogenic metalloids, for example cadmium, chromium and arsenic, which is present in the plastic pellets. Also butane and hexane have seen, for example butane is used for building tires. Polymerization of hexane would help in thermocol packing materials. Its reaction with paraxylene and acetic acid would lead to carpentry and upholstery which is being used. The PET bottles, which is the plastic bottles which are used, have purified terephthalate acid and monoethylene glycol which is used. So this polymerization is a threat to itself. There are flame retardants under which organophosphates esters are used. Plasticizers which are used in the purpose can disrupt the neurodevelopment and endocrine system. Stabilizers which disrupt the endocrine system of an individual. So there are various treaties globally which have been laid down. For example, the UN Environment Program, which talks about resistance for plastic production nations, mainly Saudi Arabia, Russia, China, talking about the REACH regulations, which mainly focuses on registration, evaluation, authorization and restriction of chemicals. The framework which would put a curtail on the import of the chemicals into European Union boundary is through REACH. ECHA is another way through which you evaluate the information to understand the health hazards of these chemicals. There are various regulations which are being framed. 67% of the petroleum refining capacity is allocated to plastic production in India. Now again, the people living in 13 of the states which have petroleum refineries suffer from acute respiratory infections, specifically in children under 5 years of age, and we can see a very high proportion which is seen in the regions of Odisha, in the regions of Punjab, where you have a petrochemical refinery and you don't have a petrochemical refinery. Even in Uttar Pradesh and Haryana, these figures are very, very high. That means the regions in the vicinity of petrochemical industries have higher incidences for respiratory ailments as compared to the other areas where it doesn't. There have been a electricity amendment rule 2024 brought in to give a thrust to the renewable sources of energy. The transport rules have been brought for captive elephants, and this talk about approving or rejecting the transfer of captive elephants within or across the states with certain conditions and frameworks. Also, vehicle scrappage policy has been brought for at least bringing in the vehicles which are 15 years old and on roads. The next is the Chipko movement. Now Chipko movement is hugging the trees, maintaining the ecosystem of the area, and to commemorate the 50th anniversary, this aspect has been brought. We have seen that the young is no longer caring about the forest. There is low demand for the produce coming from the forest. Flash floods in the forest areas have become common, and with the youths now going towards urban areas, the villages are getting more empty, and this is further affecting the region. The greenhouse gas emissions and the global warming are on a rise. We have seen a notable increase of the emissions and increase in the warming of the countries of the world globally, specifically built of the northern African continent and the Middle East are the worst affected among those. Some of the other instances talk about the fire recently in the regions of Venezuela. This was further intensified by elevated temperatures and insufficient rainfall. The labs for detecting and tracking new strains of coronavirus under the network CoviNet, the surveillance for the same, sulfur dioxide being released through volcanic eruptions in UK. There have been Asiatic black bear cubs which were discovered in the capital city of Laos, and these are recognized under vulnerable classification of IUCN. The next is the Water Commission and the 13 eastward flowing rivers in between the Mahanadi to the Pennar, which are currently having no water. So the issue and the crisis of water and the continuous decrease in the water in the rivers on an year-to-year basis is again a surmountable problem. The ban on onion exports recently for an indefinite period is another important thing that was in news, and this was a restriction which was brought to ensure that future trade uncertainties do not take place. So those were some of the key things that we have discussed in this edition of Down to Earth. The previous editions are now available on Examrace Current Affairs, and this edition would be available soon on the portal as well. So you can take the handouts from there, and these would be highly useful for your upcoming examinations. Stay tuned. Thanks for joining in.